Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drank and Champagne. I am Drank, and I am joined as always by Mr. Andrew Champagne, newly employed. Hit him with the saxophone.
Looks like I'm eating a sandwich more than playing a saxophone. But, by the way, sandwich actually wouldn't be a bad idea, even though it's fairly late at night when we're recording this. But started.
Shout out to Jersey Mike's, the official sandwich of. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes,
I do love a Jersey Mike's
space for rent. If any delis or sandwich shops are looking for something to sponsor and someplace to send money, Google us. We're easy to find.
So there was I always used to get a kick out of this commercial that was on Steve Bick. It was for some random sandwich shop, and Andrew, like you know my knowledge of horse racing stops at the year of 2018, and although this gentleman did call a forgettable Belmont at some point, why am I forgetting the announcer's name?
His name is Tom Durkin.
Tom Durkin, thank you. So Tom Durkin did this commercial. And he said something like, "Oh, I got two sandwiches, one for here and one for the road." And he's like, "And the second one was so good, I had it before, I got back or whatever." I don't know. I always thought that commercial was so cheesy. And so when Tom Durkin, made his comeback for that one race, I was like, "Oh, it's the sandwich guy." And nobody knew what I was talking about. So I'll boo myself there on that.
Thank you. You should. Tom Durkin is not only one of the great race callers of all time, he's an even better human being. I've had the pleasure of meeting him and going to watching harness races with him for horses that he has owned pieces of. Just an absolutely wonderful human being. Love that guy. They say never meet your heroes, but he was the voice of my summers of my childhood, and I was able to meet him, and he more than lives up to the billing. So will never say anything negative about Tom Durkin as long as I live. And if any of you out there have complaints about Tom Durkin and the way this show and one of the co-hosts is treating him, that's Josh Rodriguez, R-O-D-R-I.
No.
There we go. Yeah, Josh, by the way, has upgraded his soundboard. So that's your warning right there that the buzzer may be in play. And if that is, turn down the volume on your device of choice.
Andrew, I thought I might need the buzzer today, but you send me your stuff over. So I can usually look over whatever you send me before. And so I kind of get a sneak peek, and then you're usually a little bit in the dark unless there's something like real juicy I gotta tell you. But you're going to be flying in the dark here. I don't think I'm going to have to buzzer you much.
Okay, good.
In this on this episode. So shout out to you, Andrew. I appreciate you.
We're going to test that, I'm sure, because at some point I'm going to tell a dad joke or reference a certain race in Ozone Park in the spring of 2023. I'm sure we'll get use out of the buzzer somewhere. Over under wagers, you still got a little bit of time to place your bets.
So I did want to bring up one thing since we mentioned Tom Durkin briefly. I did a Sora video earlier. So if you know what Sora is, it's OpenAI's video generation thing. And while there are some products out there that allow you to kind of post copyright, basically other people, there's like the deep fake stuff and all that. Sora is basically like, hey, if you're going to make a video that's going to show somebody doing something, like you have to post a video, you have to post a picture of yourself. It has to be you, like all this other stuff. Right. So, but you can just toss in generic prompts and it'll fill stuff in. So today, I forget, Caleb was talking about something, and I think he was specifically talking about Ted Noffey. And he's like, yeah, he doesn't like the horse. He didn't say that. He did not say it as nicely as that, right? Because we know Caleb is a wordsmith when he comes to talking about horses. He does not like.
Did the words candy ass trip come up?
I mean, I don't think so, but you know, he's been pretty spicy towards a couple of horses in private chat. So I think our stream tomorrow night or Thursday night, tonight, if you're listening to this on Thursday, is it's gonna be fun. We're doing it live from Caleb's. It's gonna be a blast. We might have some special guests, aka some of our other buddies who are in town, make appearances, or if they're not on camera, you'll probably hear them, especially to or probably boo us or who knows what with our takes. Specifically mine, because apparently at some point during the draw, I was saying things, and Mark said he couldn't tell if I was trolling or not. And for once, I was not. And he just couldn't tell because he's like, I just don't know if you're joking. But, anyways, we're getting really deep into it. Obviously, we'll be live 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night. Check that out. But I did a video of Ted Noffey winning by like 7 lengths or something at 7-5. I know he's like 4-5 in the morning line or whatever, but who do you think the announcer voice is based off of? It was very distinct. I could tell right away who they were trying to replicate on the announcer. But if you were to say tell AI to replicate a horse call, a horse race call, which announcer do you think it is?
I would tell them to replicate Durkin. My guess is they replicated Trevor Denman.
That's wrong. I'll give you one more guess.
Oh man, is it? I'm gonna kick myself at some point for this. Aiello?
Wrong state.
Okay.
You were so obviously it wasn't Durkin, but who came after Durkin?
Rona? Or Miramai?
Okay, maybe I'm way off. It was actually Larry Colmus. It's Larry
Oh,
Colmus.
Durkin. Sorry. Yeah, got it. Okay. No, I misunderstood you. You're good.
Yeah. It's very, very clearly Larry Coleman. I'll send you the video because obviously I just made it real quickly. I didn't. I thought it was funny, but you're gonna listen to it and you're like, oh yeah, that's supposed to be Larry. I can tell.
Okay.
But
I'm looking forward to that. No, that's a good thing.
But you know, Andrew, we got a lot of stuff to cover. So before we jump into anything here, any very, very high level, any high level thoughts on this weekend?
So I'm more excited for Saturday than for Friday. I've got a couple of opinions on Friday, but I'm going to warn you in advance. We do a format for these shows where each of us gives a best bet, a long shot, and a bold prediction for each day. Saturdays was a little tricky because I like a couple of prices to where I had to make one of them my bold prediction and one of them my long shot. Friday, I had to get creative. And I think you're going to like what I have to say about my bold prediction on Friday, because if this materializes, they may need to have some help putting the tote board back together after it explodes.
A tote explosion?
Yes.
As our friend Chase Sessoms likes to talk about.
Well, I actually channeled Aaron Vercruzzi's line about needing to put the tote board back together because it exploded. That's he was on HRTV many years ago, and that was one of his favorite lines whenever a bomb came in.
All right. Well, let's get started here. And for some reason, I was not prepared for this, so let me.
You not prepared? I am shocked. Shocked, I say, Josh.
I just hope I'm sharing the right tab. Let's see what we got here. But we're gonna start with Friday.
Okay, we're sharing the right tab. That's a good thing. I'm nervous about the tabs you have open on your computer screen, so that could have been very dangerous.
Oh no, I just had multiple days and I had other PPs open, but yeah. So if you're new and you haven't done one of these shows for us, we'll go through. We'll each give a best bet, a long shot, and the bold prediction. Because it's a 2-day event, we'll do each day. But yeah, Andrew, I'll let you get started here. When we'll start with our best bet. You went to the juvenile in this spot, and you did not select the morning line favorite in Ted Noffey, the aforementioned Ted Noffey. You went somewhere else here.
Yes, I did. And I think Caleb and I are of the same mindset here. Ted Nafi's run well. I was not overly impressed with the Breeders' Futurity. I thought he did what he was supposed to do, not necessarily anything more or less than that. I am much more impressed with what I've seen from horse number 7, Brant. Brand is the 5-2 second choice on that morning line. And when he debuted, word was out. He was odds on that day at Del Mar. He won by more than 5 lengths. He won in a very fast time with a very fast figure. He then winds up trying Grade 1 company in the Del Mar Futurity. And if you're watching us on YouTube, first of all, thank you very much. Go on down below and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. You see daily racing form past performances that indicate he went off at 1-9. The running line doesn't tell the full story. He contested a very, very, very fast pace that day and showed some grit, being able to win that race by a length and stopping the timer in less than 1:22 for the 7 furlong distance. That's a very fast time. This is a very fast racehorse. I think Brant is going to have things all his own way on the front end. I'm envisioning a trip similar to the trip Fierceness had a couple of years ago in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, where they gave the fastest horse an easy lead, and that horse never came back. Brant is my best bet of Breeders' Cup Friday. He's not going to be favored in this race if the morning line holds up. I think that's a mistake. I think Brant is far and away the most likely winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and I will be playing accordingly.
Are you saying the wrong horse is favored?
No, based on accomplishments, you've got a 2-time Grade 1 winner for Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez. That horse is going to be favored. I understand why. I just think people are making too much out of what looks to be mild regression in the Del Mar Futurity. I don't think it was a regression at all. I have no hesitation about that runner trying 2 turns. And if he winds up getting an easy lead, when was the last time you saw a Baffert horse come up completely empty on Breeders' Cup Day? It doesn't happen often. If you give me 5-2 on Brand, I'm going to take that all day.
Yeah, so full disclosure, Brant is the horse I gave out to my European friends who are able to lock in fixed odds. I saw him at 5-2 overseas in a lot of spots, and I thought that's fair. I don't think you get that. I think you're probably closer to 2-1 as your second choice in here. I think he takes a bunch of money. Honestly, the only other horse I was interested in here is actually the 1, Intrepido, with Jeff Mullins and Hector Barrios here. And I just like, he's coming off that win in the American Pharoah. Obviously he is going to be running that same distance here. So I like the fact that this is the horse that's already run the mile in 16th. Has got a win doing that. Beat a Baffert horse that I actually really liked in that Brant race in the Del Mar Futurity in Desert Gate. And got a 108 time form for that. And Timeform's got this coded as a fast pace. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think that if this race does look like it might fall apart, I think Intrepido is the horse that I'm going to want coming from off the pace. So I have that horse in here. I didn't give that to my overseas friends because he's shockingly like 6-1 in some books, 7-1 in others. And I think maybe there's a chance that we get a little bit better price on the tote. So, if I see 10-1 on him, I'll definitely be firing. But I think Brant is the horse that I would back if I were looking for a win bet, especially at like 5-2. If you could lock in 5-2 now, I think that's a very fair price on Brant. But don't need to talk too long about here, as obviously I have your best bet up here. The number 7 Brant. I forgot to click the button, but I usually for best bets try and bridge the gap between stone cold lock and value. So I think if you were to ask me who your most likely winner on the card is, I think in race 8 in the juvenile turf, I think Precise is going to be pretty tough, or the Philly Turf. Sorry, I think Precise is going to be pretty tough in that race. But I thought there were other horses in there that provided some value. But if I were to be like, who's probably my most likely winner, it'd probably be Precise. But that's no fun, right? That's a horse that's 7-5, 6-5 on the morning line. It's going to be real short. I saw like 10-11 overseas. We don't want to deal with that. So I went to the juvenile sprint, and if you're looking, if you're watching on YouTube, you see obviously my notes. You see I have 3 A's in this race. But honestly, the horse that I'm most excited to bet is the 10 Cyfair, for George Weaver and Irad Ortiz. And what was interesting about this horse is, I'm looking at the price. I see 6-1 in the morning line. Andrew, overseas, I saw tens. So that was another horse I gave out to my overseas friends. I'm like, look, if you can get 10-1 on this horse, I mean, that's probably even worth an each way bet at that price. I mean, that's, that I thought that was a ridiculous price. But, the reason I really like this horse is because I think sometimes in turf sprints, we get this notion a turf sprinter is a turf sprinter, right? But Andrew, you and I, we've watched a lot of Hong Kong, right? We've bet a lot of Hong Kong. And Andrew, there's a big difference between a 1,000-meter horse, a 1,200-meter horse, a 1,400-meter horse, and so on and so on and so on. And then, not to mention, a Happy Valley horse versus a Sha Tin horse at those same distances, because some are one turn, some are straight, some are two turns. So you kind of get through all that, and obviously 5 furlongs here in the United States is a turn. It's a one turn race. Overseas is frequently a straight, and sometimes these horses are coming in here having not turned in quite some time outside of training, right? So when I look at this race, specifically at Del Mar, where it's a 5 furlong race, right? Because I know sometimes we go 5.5, sometimes we go 6. It depends on the track. But if we go 5 furlongs here at Del Mar, and 5 furlongs to me is a very sharp distance for a lot of these short price horses. True Love is coming in here, having run 5 furlongs once, and if you're looking at the time form figs I have posted, the 2 5 furlong races are literally the 2 worst races this horse has run. Now, granted, those are straights, but this is a horse coming in here that's cutting back. I actually really liked True Love in the Filly and Mare Turf if she would have gone to that, because I believe that was her second preference. I thought True Love would have been a player in that race. I was actually really excited, and I was watching the draw, and this is one of the times where they thought I was trolling. Is I was watching the draw, and I was like, "Where is True Love?" And they're like, "You're an idiot! Like, what the heck is going on?" And it's because I didn't have like the preferences on my PPs or anything like that. So, but I think True Love obviously is coming in here. We've talked about time form figs. Time form figs overseas, they generally trend upwards when they come to the U.S. Right, anywhere between 10 and 12 point improvement usually, but it's coming to a completely different race, right? We're going back to 5 furlongs. We're going to a turn. And when I look at this race, I think Cyfair is your best 5 furlong horse here. And so I really like Cyfair in here. I actually really like the 3 Royal Testament as well, the other George Weaver horse. Gets the services of Flavian Pratt in here. And once again, you kind of go back to that 5 furlong Monmouth race. That race looks really good here, and especially being that that's the horse's second attempt to run that 104 time form. So I think cutting back to that 5 furlong distance is going to be really good for Royal Treatment. But I'll go with Cyfair as my best bet on Friday's card.
I see where you're coming from there, and that was an impressive race on figures at Woodbine. My issue with Cyfair is I'm not sure how much room she has to move forward. I think she's going to be a contender and she's going to run fairly well, but she may need to take a step forward, and she's run 3 starts around the same figure in all 3 outings. Whereas you've got a couple of horses in this race, and this is a fantastic segue here, that may very well have some more room to improve. And if that's the case, Give me a horse at a price rather than one of the horses that's going to be a bit shorter. And with that in mind, Josh, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to my long shot of Breeders' Cup Friday, which is in this very race, the Juvenile Turf Sprint. I am a big fan of horse number 6, Intricate Spirit. Intricate Spirit won the debut at Saratoga like a very nice horse. Beat a horse that day by the name of Turf Star, who closed from out of the clouds and winds up running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf later on in the program. Intricate Spirit comes out of that race, goes to Kentucky Downs in an allowance race, does get beaten, runs second, beaten 3/4 of a length by a horse named Street Beast. All Street Beast did next time out was win a stakes race by 7 lengths, and Street Beast is going to take some money in that juvenile turf as well. Intricate Spirit, rather than stretching out, cuts back to 6 furlongs in the Futurity at Aqueduct and runs a very nice race, taking a step forward from a 90 to a 99 in the time form ratings. With that in mind, I think Intricate Spirit is very, very interesting. Intricate Spirit is a stalker in a race with a lot of speed up front. Yes, he has tactical speed, and he's not going to be too far off of it, but he doesn't necessarily need the lead in order to run well. That is a hugely valuable trait because there are a couple of horses in here that are going to go early. Schwarzenegger, we know, is going to go early. The 4 Aspect Island is a European runner. That one has some speed. That one's going to go early. I think Cy-Fair may very well wind up going early. I think Lenny Lou may very well wind up going early. Obliteration's not going to be too far off of it. I think Intricate Spirit could sit an ideal trip, maybe 2.5 lengths off of the lead and get first run turning for home. That sort of trip with Joel Rosario aboard, who is no stranger to success in these turf sprints, gives Intricate Spirit a big, big shot. I'll be very interested, Josh, in seeing what kind of price we can get on that one because I think there's quite a bit to like at a price to kick off this year's event.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I mean, since we're already here, my bold predictions in here, and we'll kind of flip flop some stuff here. But honestly, my bold prediction is that I think the American horses make up the trifecta in this race.
USA, USA, USA.
Which, normally, like in this race, people would probably be like, "Oh, look at you sticking your neck out," right? Because generally, Americans have been very successful at this race. Especially with Wesley Ward runners and things like that. But obviously, the morning line favorite in this race is a European horse, and I just, like I said, I just don't like this horse here. I think, like I said, I would have preferred to see this horse go longer, whether it's a longer sprint or that 2-turn mile on the turf. So I think True Love is kind of up against it here. And, if you were to tell me that the trifecta was made up of, Cy-Fair, Schwarzenegger, Lenny Lou, like if it came in something like that, I wouldn't be surprised. Right. So I'm gonna stick my neck out here. I'm gonna say, hey, the American horses, they make up the trifecta in this race, and the Euros get shut out here in this race. So
it's pretty cool because, again, I did not see any of Josh's stuff, but my bold prediction is not entirely dissimilar to that of Josh. And I'm not just talking about the turf sprint. I'm talking about the juvenile fillies turf and the juvenile turf. Aidan O'Brien comes over and he's got an army of contenders. However, while his horses look live, I don't think they're unbeatable. I think there exists a scenario where an O'Brien finds the winner's circle on Friday at Del Mar and it's not Aidan. Potentially, it's one of his kids. If you go back to the juvenile turf sprint, one of them has a contender in that race that we haven't talked about yet, and that's the 8 Havana Anna, who was just 3/4 of a length behind True Love last time out and has won twice going that 5 furlong distance. Havana Anna is not without a shot. If you wind up going to race number 8 now, the juvenile fillies turf, yes, horse number 13, Precise, is going to be a very heavy favorite. But the O'Brien boys, they've got a couple in here. Queen of Hawaii has won twice going a mile overseas. And I would not sleep on horse number 10, Valentina, for Danako O'Brien. You toss that last race, You're left with a horse that's shown some talent. That race 3 back at Ascot, where she ran third, beaten 2.5 lengths, she ran third behind a pair of very nice horses that won at next asking. There are some things to like there, not to mention the presence of jockey Ocean Murphy, who, when he is on his game, is one of the best riders on the planet. Then you look at the juvenile turf, and once again, Aidan O'Brien has the favorite. Once again, it's drawn very, very, very far outside in the form of Justad, who is 9-5 on the morning line. I'm not saying Justad can't win, but he's burned a fair amount of money in the last 3 outings, goes 2 turns for the first time from a very far outside post. Now, Ryan Anderson and I were talking about this earlier today on his show over on the Gallop YouTube channel. An outside post at Del Mar on the turf is not necessarily a death sentence, but it's going to require some creativity. And I don't think Justad is unbeatable in that particular instance. I'm looking at this field. I see a couple of other horses that could potentially get the job done. Joey O'Brien has North Coast, and if you cross out North Coast last race at the Curragh, what are you left with? That horse isn't a bad runner. I think there's a chance one of the O'Brien kids gets into the winner's circle and Dad gets shut out.
Nice. Since we are talking about the turf, I actually do have a long shot in here.
All right, we're setting each other up pretty good here.
I know we're jumping around a little bit, but I actually really like the number 10, Ardisia, here at 15-1 on the morning line. And
making the 12th start of the season as a 2-year-old.
I mean, isn't that crazy? And honestly, the reason why I like this horse is if you kind of go back, you see that the time form is getting better and better and better. But more importantly, that last race, 2 weeks back, that was on firm ground, and this horse just popped a really, really nice figure on firm ground. And that's not something you see a lot because obviously they run on soft, they run on yielding there a lot. And granted, this is a horse that's run on good, on soft, on yielding, has won on all types of going. But this horse's best figure came running on firm ground. And once again, you kind of put in the conversion, that 101 probably is closer to like a 110 to 112 here in the US. And I mean, outside of Justad, nobody here is touching that. And I think, hey, maybe if Justad does get a tough trip here, obviously going 2 turns for the first time, stuck out wide. I mean, has to overcome a lot of stuff, just like the great actor Gregory Peck said, taking a short price on a horse, doing something for the first time.
Boo yourself immediately.
But I think Ardisia is one that, is doing something for the first time, obviously doing the 2 turns, but you're getting a heck of a price in 15-1 in the morning line. You get Oisin Murphy, who you've already talked about before, who when he's riding well, there's nobody better in the world than him. So, I really like Ardisia here as my long shot pick.
I can't complain with that logic. I liked Ardisia a fair bit in there as well, though part of that may have been me trying to find an alternative to Justad. Justad has talent. On figures, he's the one to beat, but there's a lot of ifs in this particular spot. There are also figures to be a pretty fast pace signed on, and I'm worried he's going to have to go pretty fast to get the kind of position that he wants in the Friday nightcap at Del Mar. So we're halfway through here. We are now moving on to Breeders' Cup Saturday. Very excited about this card. I think there's a lot to like here. Josh, how do you want to proceed here?
You know what? I'll go first here. And my best bet in here is I don't know if I just got a soft spot for this horse. Saw this horse win very, very convincingly last year in person at Del Mar. It was one of the few races I actually went down to the rail to watch. And that's going to be over here in race 8 on the rail. Number 1, Rebels Romance, 5-2 morning line. Mini Hawk is coming in here as the morning line favorite. Obviously, I mean this horse has done, I mean, absolutely nothing wrong this year. You know, came second by a head last time at Longshot, but other than that, you know, has just won everything, right? So this horse is coming in here with just a tremendous resume, and uh, is probably a worthy favorite. But man, Rebels Romance, I mean, frequent flyer miles and all, showing back up here, and yeah, it just, I mean, this is a horse that's already won here at Del Mar, and you know, I've heard the Europeans sometimes say, hey, like they don't like necessarily shipping to these West Coast turf races because the turf is just completely different, right, to what they're used to running on, and I think last year Rebels Romance showed. I mean, 9 to 5 was, you know, I mean, granted, only won by a neck there, but seemed to be kind of geared down. I think at the end, and probably could have styled on them a little bit
I,
harder.
I remember that vividly because I was screaming from the track apron at Pleasanton, "Where's the bleeping wire?"
But you know, even more impressively, came back here in the Hirsch at Aqueduct, and I mean, won that thing by as many lengths as he wanted. 130 time form number. I mean, that's just gaudy. And yeah, I mean, coming back to a track that this horse has won at already, I think yeah, I think it's going to be tough to bet against Rebels Romance in the spot. This is another one. I just think. I mean, if you get anywhere near 5 to 2, I would love it. But my guess is that you're probably going to be it's gonna. I think it's gonna be close with Mini Hawk. I think it's gonna be one of those like 8 to 5, 9 to 5 situations with both of them, and they're gonna be very very close in price. But I love Rebels Romance in this spot.
I love Rebels Romance in general. We will not see a horse like this again.
Hmm.
20 of 29 lifetime, earnings of almost $15 million, Group 1 or Grade 1 wins in 6 different countries. If Rebels Romance winds up winning this race, he will become the first male horse in history with 3 Breeders' Cup wins. The other 2 female horses, Goldikova and Beholder. I'm rooting for Rebels Romance. I think he's live. I'm going to use that one. I'll use Mini Hawk. I'm also going to use number 2, Goliath. Goliath is very streaky, but on his best day, he could absolutely win this. So I can't very well toss that one. You look at the last out time form number of 123. That's a big number. He's got a couple of really big numbers on his sheet. And when he's right, he's a very, very nice racehorse. So need to use that one as well. But the Euros certainly seem to have this one over a barrel. So can't complain about that as a potential best bet. My best bet comes a couple of races later in race number 11, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, where, Josh, I've got a gripe. Nysos should be in the Classic. There's just no reason for him not to be in the Breeders' Cup Classic if he's healthy. Based on speed figures, he is one of the best horses in the country. He has done absolutely nothing wrong. You look at the last several races he's run, and he has been electric. The race 3 back at Churchill Downs is the one time he got beat, and all he was doing that day was coming off of a layoff of more than a year, and he ran second beat in the neck to Mindframe, who he almost certainly never saw coming. Nysos isn't going to be a price. He's going to be your favorite in the Dirt Mile. He's a single for me absolutely everywhere. I think he lays over this field, and if he's greater than even money, that hits me as a considerable overlay that you should absolutely exploit. And in all of those multi-race exotics with some big fields and a whole bunch of contenders in some of the other races, Josh, I'm going to go as far as to say this: Nysos is a free square.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that Bob Baffert absolutely is going to win the Dirt Mile.
Who do you think he wins it with, Goal Oriented or Citizen Bull? There you go. I swear I didn't see Josh's stuff. I didn't see any of Josh's stuff, and we are segueing into each other so well.
I love Citizen Bull in the spot. I got the 3 alarms going off. I would, if anybody texts me asking who I like at all in any Breeders' Cup race, this is the horse I am going to give. This is just my absolute, like, every single like, if Citizen Bull wins, I'm drinking and free in probably like 7 countries. But, and like, granted, right, like, we've seen, right, this horse started the year off with that win in the RB Lewis, and obviously they got Derby fever. I mean, they got Derby on the
Well, it
mind.
was a
Everyone
champion
thought,
2-year-old last year. Of
yeah,
course, they had Derby fever.
everyone thought Derby, right? And then you saw as soon as they started stretching this horse out, like, just did not work out. They ran him in the Derby, just, obviously. I felt like such an idiot because I had like a 9-1 future bet on him, and he obviously went off at longer price than that in the Derby. So
I just love the running line for that race. Broke out severely, impeded many foes. How often you see that?
I mean, that was just a mess. That was an absolute mess. But I mean, I think when you're on the rail and the Derby, I mean, but yeah. So they tried the Woody Stevens, and I mean, he ran fine. Ran fourth in that race. I mean, he got bet really, really short. But then he comes back to Del Mar, obviously in a listed stakes race, wins by 5.5, gets business done. But Andrew, I don't know. I don't know if it just happens to be because, hey, right, the two races he was in, maybe he got candy ass trips in both of them. But at least on the PPs I'm looking at, right, in the last 6 races, those 2 Del Mar races look pretty good going 2 turns in at both that mile race last time out and the BC Juvenile. So I don't know. I'm taking a little bit of a horse for course angle here with Citizen Bull, thinking that maybe he just likes his Del Mar surface, and he's gonna come out here, and I think, hey, we'll see what happens here. Obviously, JJ gets aboard, stays aboard. He's the best they got out west, so that's, I think, a huge upgrade, or a huge feather in his cap there. And I mean, I see 10-1 in the morning line. I looked overseas. I saw, I might have seen longer. What did I see overseas? Oh, I didn't see anything yet because they don't have Saturday up. But yeah, I love Citizen Bull. I was gonna make him my long shot, but 10-1 on a long shot on a horse that I could maybe see being a little shorter. Like, if you tell me that he goes up at 8 or 9-1, like, I'm not gonna be surprised, because it's Bob in California, right? But I love Citizen Bull. I mean, I might just single him in this race and just let the chips fall where they may, and get cute in a section or a race where I think people are either going to do what you're doing, singling Nisos, or they're going to be like, if not Nisos, I have no idea who, and spread. So yeah, I'm going to go with Citizen Bull here.
I'm going to preface this by saying if I don't win, I hope you do. Do me a favor, scroll back down to Citizen Bull's past performances. I want you to tell me something.
Mm-hmm.
How many horses were in that race that he comes out of?
I mean, 3.
That is the definition of a Rudy Poo candy ass trip. Copyright Caleb, all rights reserved. If he gets the lead, he's a very nice horse. I don't think he's faster than some of the horses in this field, and I think he's absolutely a need the lead type. I see where you're going with this, but if you're going to give me a Baffert horse, give me the one that's been running off the screen multiple times against way better horses than what Citizen Bull has been beating. But look, that's why you're getting 10-1. And if you're a figure player, that 126 stacks up reasonably well. And by the way, we've talked about 2 Baffert horses. We've just put goal oriented into the winner's circle.
I don't know. I thought like, so goal oriented is the type of horse I don't like to bet off of figures. because this is a horse that's run 3 straight pretty nice figures, but has not won any of those races.
Yep.
Right. And so, you're like, oh, well, the number, right? Like you bet the number. And it's like great, like you got to make a decision. I think, are you just betting the number? And if you are, that's fine. But I think you got to bring form into it a little bit. Granted, it was against Baeza Magnitude last time out. And he finished third in that race by 4 1/4 lengths and got a 126 still. I mean, Baeza is a nice horse, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe they should have ran Baeza in this race. I don't know if he really belonged in the classic, but yeah, the race of the century.
Yeah,
but
really quickly, and we need to just address this. To everybody out there that was calling the classic the best Breeders' Cup Classic ever, what have you learned? Stop tempting fate. Everyone in racing needs to stop tempting fate. I'm going to shout this from the rooftops. These people need to learn the same lesson Matthew DeSantis learns every time he guarantees a fast and firm track. Stop tempting fate in this game.
I got a question for you. Well, we'll get to it at the end. Remind me, we had to talk about it when we talk about the classic because
sounds good.
I have a this or that or we'll pick one or the other, and
okay,
I'm interested.
good.
I'm interested to hear your opinion on it because I was thinking about this when I heard all the race of the century nonsense.
Gotcha.
Cool. Honestly, Andrew, and maybe I'm getting too meta when I was thinking about this. Like, I see Nisos in this race, and you're like, hey, he should run in the classic, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. What the hell is he doing here? And I don't like it when horses, I don't want to say punch down because I actually think this is a pretty solid field. But I guess I just don't understand why you run this horse here. Unless you're worried about something, or I mean, I don't know. I really have no clue. I mean, I think both him and honestly, like one of my pet horses, obviously White Barrio, running in here. When we all know that White Barrio's best distance ain't a mile. So
I can give you the answer.
And what's that?
It's the horse that's not running anymore.
Oh.
If you gave some of these connections the option to run in the classic now, at least one of them takes it.
Fair enough. But yeah, I thought, like I said, I really like Citizen Bull here. I think this is a good field, actually. I think that if most of the field would win this race, like I wouldn't be shocked. There's maybe only like one or two just absolute shockers in here that like would be like, whoa, like huge upset. So I think this is actually a pretty solid field. But Andrew, I'll let you go next. Where'd you go for your long shot? Since I know we took a bit of a turn there.
No worries. So my long shot comes fairly early on in the card. It is in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, which goes as race number 5. I really like number 5, Bring the Band Home. Bring the Band Home may be the first Mark Casse trainee in the history of his career to detest Woodbine. If you cross out the Woodbine races on his sheet, and there are multiple that don't measure up, you're left with a horse that has run some big races. Go back to the race 2 back in the Grade 2 Troy at Saratoga. He runs very well that day. Go back to the race 3 back in the Harvey Pack Stakes at Saratoga, and he runs off the screen. This is a horse that is a very talented turf sprinter that just doesn't like the Great White North. And if you cross out those races on his sheet and act like they don't exist, you're left with a runner that has a big chance in a wide open race where I think he might drift up off of that 12-1 number when he's got races that absolutely fit with this group. Give me all a Bring the Band Home in race number 5, the Turf Sprint, at anywhere close to that morning line price. If this horse is double digits, I'll be playing. And again, Josh, I think there's a chance this is one of the horses that drifts up in the betting, just because that last race darkens the form significantly.
Yeah, this was one of the races I had a tough time with. I'll be honest with you. I think your morning line favorite Motorius is a toss in this spot. I don't think he's a 5 furlong horse.
The rail is not ideal for what he wants to do.
Yeah, I just don't think that he's a 5 furlong horse. If this was a 6, a 6.5, I think I'd be a little bit more interested. I mean, granted, he won the Green Flash last year, came second in it this year, and those are both at 5. But I feel like, you know, and obviously he ran second last year to Starlust. Um, so maybe I'm trashing this horse's character a little too
Well, to
much,
be
but
fair, last year's turf sprint completely fell apart.
yeah.
Cogburn went from can't lose at the top of the stretch to dropping anchor, and then all hell broke loose. Last time out in the Green Flash, Motori has benefited from one of the worst disqualifications in the history of the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. I have absolutely no idea what the stewards were thinking on that particular day. He winds up benefiting from that. I look at the races he's run since coming back off the bench, and they're not bad, but the races he ran last year were considerably better. He's 7 now. He's no kid. I wonder if we've seen the best from him.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me trying to get around the short price favorite, but I actually much prefer the 3 Arizona Blaze in this spot. I think this is a horse that has 2 really nice figures, but obviously both of them are on yielding turf, which you're not going to get here. But those figures, I mean, the 123s coming from overseas. Like I said, we talked about the conversion. You bring that over here to the U.S. I mean, we're in the 130s probably, or at least close to the 130s with those figures here in the U.S. So I definitely think that Arizona Blaze is going to be coming in here, I think, with some very nice form. Now, granted, he's done it on yielding. Now it's gonna be firmed up. You know, what's that gonna do? I don't know, but at least I'm gonna get a slightly better price. Right, I'm getting 5 to 1 in the morning line. Maybe I get a little bit more here, but of the American runners, I like Ag Bullet, and this is a horse that's basically done it on, numerous types of distances. I mean, he's got some good, 1 mile races. He's got some good 5 furlong races. Very versatile type horse here. Gets Johnny Velasquez aboard, and he's got one thing. He's going to go and he's going to try and go to the front end, I think, here and see what he can do. My concern with him, though, is his last race was at Kentucky Downs, and I think I saw Ed DeRosa post a stat that was just like eye popping. It's something like,
Oh, for a lot.
yeah, 0 for a million for any horses who they have. I think it's that they have run at Kentucky Downs, not
Yes,
even
that
run
have run at
last.
Kentucky Downs that year are over. Now, streaks are meant to be broken. And if we're talking 0 for 10, 0 for 15, you can let some stuff slide. I think it's just a sign that the Kentucky Downs turf course is just so wildly different from what anybody can expect to run on come Breeders' Cup time. And the horses that really like Kentucky Downs aren't necessarily going to be the best at conventional routes of ground. So I completely understand that for sure with AG Bullet. And just to clear things up, she is a filly going against the boys.
Thank you. Let's move on to my long shot. And like I said, originally I was going to go with Citizen Bull, but I always feel like 10 to 1 is kind of that weird price where it's like, it's kind of a long shot. It could go lower or whatever. So instead, I tried to go with uh, as my kind of bold prediction there. But the BC Sprint, I actually think I do like the 10, Beternato. Obviously, if you believe the last time form figure, everyone's running for second. I mean, that's just a gaudy figure off of a nearly year layoff, and ran well here last year at Del Mar. Actually was in the lead briefly, and then Straight No Chaser, won that race by half a length. And Ben Tornado's coming in here as your favorite 5-2, and yeah, I think a worthy favorite in this spot. I don't know if this is just some kind of disrespect, or maybe there's something I'm not seeing. But Andrew, is there any reason that the number 11 Mulligan is 15-1 on the morning line?
I know.
Why?
He doesn't win anymore.
I mean, he doesn't win, but in the Vanderbilt, ran second to the horse that should have been your 9-5 favorite in this race in Bookham Dano. And Bookham Dano ain't in this race. You look at the last race; they went 7 furlongs. And once again, this is something I've said many times. These are like sprinters. They're a funny bunch. And granted, people are like, oh well, six. If he can get 6, he can get 7. And it's like not always, right? So I actually like this horse cutting back to 6. This is a 5-year-old, granted, but that race 2 back in the Vanderbilt, that 127. I mean that's the second fastest figure in this field. And you're telling me I'm getting 15-1 on that horse? I mean, sign me up, right? So I think Mulligan is in here with a very, very big shot at 15-1. I think his run style is actually gonna, fit this race like a glove because, we got a coded fast pace here from Timeform. Granted, I always say once there's 10 horses in the field, Timeform tends to kind of sometimes be like, oh, it's going to be a fast pace because of the amount of horses in there. So that pace sometimes doesn't materialize. But if a fast pace does materialize here, I think that Mulligan is going to be sitting a garden trip in that, 4th or 5th spot and be able to close in here. So I love Mulligan here at 15-1. I'll have this horse on all my tickets. I'll have this horse in first and second in exactas. I like Mulligan here.
I drove the Mulligan bus on several occasions. I loved him in this race last year at Del Mar.
I don't have a car horn, so let's pretend that's like the bus horn.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I loved him in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. Flavien Prat is a world-class rider. I don't say this a lot about him. He wants that one back because there was no reason for him to be 8th, 5 lengths back midway through that race. He wound up running okay. He was 3rd that day. He runs back in the Cigar Mile and runs his eyeballs out to finish 2nd, beaten a length and a half by Locked. Goes to the sidelines. I loved him in the Grade 1 Churchill Downs coming off the layoff. At the top of the stretch, Flavien Prat, not Luis Saez, Saez looks like he's loaded. Winds up running 5th, beaten a length and a quarter by Mindframe in what's probably the race of the year to this point, given the horses that were involved in that race. Liked him again in the True North, and that was when I got off the bus. Mulligan's a nice horse. I do think he's better going 7 furlongs or a mile than he is going 6 furlongs. I know that was a big figure when he ran 2nd behind Bookham Dano 2 back, but I just think his best races have come going that 7 furlong distance rather than 6. He's a very nice horse. I don't want to knock him too much. If he hits the board, I will not be surprised, but I just cannot back him as a win candidate, given the quality of this field. Ben Tornado is legitimate. Straight No Chaser is legitimate. And Josh, what the heck do we do with horse number 1, Copion, a filly going against the boys for one of the most conservative trainers, not just on the West Coast, but in the world, in Richard Mandela, off of a workout that I cannot believe was as fast as it was. Copion comes in off of an old-fashioned 3 furlong blowout where she went 3 furlongs in 33-1. What do we do?
I'm not using Copion anywhere.
I don't have a super strong lean in this particular race. I understand where you're going from a value standpoint, but if you're looking at a bomb that could potentially benefit from the way the race shape is set up, What's wrong with the 3 Lovesick Blues, whose best race came here to win the Bing Crosby at odds of 40, wait, 18 to 1? Call reference there for you. Couldn't Lovesick Blues win this race if he runs back to that effort over this track?
I mean, maybe. Honestly, like I think the other horse I was a little interested in would be the two banishing. Just
The
because,
trainer stuff with him rubs me the wrong way, and I don't think he's a 6 furlong horse, but I get where you're going.
yeah, that's more like just absolutely the coolest horse in training right now. I mean, they're like, I like this has got to be a horse that literally, David Jacobson's just like just find the finish line. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how far you're going. You, hey, let's send this horse over to Mountaineer and run a 4 furlong sprint. He'll find the wire. It's fine. It's fine.
You'd have loved Jorge Navarro back in the day, taking horses from Charlestown, going 4.5 furlongs and winning the Vanderbilt.
I mean, it's just wild. Like, the fact they tried the Lucas Classic with this horse. That's the Charlestown Classic, which is like 4 turns. I don't even know how long that thing is, and but I still think his best races are 1 turn. I think a 1 turn mile, 7 furlongs, and honestly, if this was a 7 furlong sprint, I would be all over banishing. I would love banishing in that spot. I think this might be a little too sharp for him, but
Yeah, I will be very much looking forward to betting him in the Cigar Mile next month.
fair enough. Um, Andrew, you got one last thing here, and it's your bold prediction.
It's my bold prediction, and it comes in the very last race of the 2-day program. Remember, the Classic goes as race number 9 because of TV. We're going to go to the Filly and Mare Turf. This is a wide open race with a bunch of talented horses coming in from overseas. I am not a huge fan of She Feels Pretty, who I think is going to be your morning line favorite. I very much like that horse. She's really cool, and if this was a mile or a mile and an eighth, I would love her. I think a mile and a quarter is not necessarily her best distance. Post 13 is not ideal because she wants to be forward. I think Cinderella's Dream is a fantastic horse who we may have seen the best of already. Gazora makes sense, but I can't back that horse at 7-2 or anywhere close to that on the morning line. The figures just are not great coming from overseas. Based on those figures, she should not be that overwhelming a favorite over the 11 Bedtime Story, who's going to be way more of a price. With that in mind, I went price shopping, and I wound up landing on horse number 4, Village Voice. Village Voice made the first start in the States for Chad Brown last time out in the WEA off of a layoff of nearly a year. Going back to last year, she ran in some very tough spots. We saw her last in a Group 1 on British Champions Day where she was 4th behind the likes of Wingspan and Tiffany. Those are some very, very good horses, and I would argue that field is as good, maybe better, than the one she lines up against here. She ran at Aqueduct in the WEA. She had every excuse to need that race. The time form numbers say it was a pretty fast pace. I don't know if I agree with that because if you look at the fractions, they were not fast. She was way out of it, winds up coming from out of the clouds to get the money. And what was, again, her first start in a year. She had every right to need that race. That race wasn't the goal. This race is the goal. Flavian Pratt rides for Chad Brown on a horse going second off the layoff, second time in the States, and she's 15 to 1. Give me that horse as a bomb to close out the 2025 Breeders' Cup World Championships at Del Mar because, Josh, if she steps forward at all whatsoever, and I think she will, I think she's very, very live.
I'm actually a little upset from you because you didn't say that she came from way out of there.
Boo! Hit the boo button right now. When I make dad jokes, they're funny.
Yeah, I see this race a little differently than you. I'm on 2 short prices. I'm gonna go. I'll use She Feels Pretty. I think on time form she stacks up really well with this field. The outside draw is a little bit of concern, but she's run well at a mile and 3/16 and a mile and a quarter at Woodbine. I don't think it's going to be a problem. The distance is going to be a problem for her. So I like She Feels Pretty. The other horse I like is actually Diamond Rain, which is second up in North America here for Chucky Apples. And last time out, William Buick, I thought gave a pretty decent ride, and was only ended up losing by a head in that race. So She Feels Pretty, and I think second up, second time in North America, I think that if this horse is able to take a step forward from that, I mean, it is going to be absolutely probably the horse to beat in here. I mean, if that horse can take a step forward from that last race. So I'm going to use those two horses as my A's. And I didn't really get much deeper than that. I'm against the 5 in this spot. I'm against the 9. So those are kind of two shorter prices that I'm not going to be using. But I do think that the 6 and the 13 might be all I need in this race. But
So you mentioned the 6 Diamond Rain, and I didn't hate that horse as a potential upsetter of the apple cart. I think 6-1's a little short. I would need a little bit more on that. And also, Buick chooses to ride Cinderella's Dream over Diamond Rain. I think that's telling. Cinderella's Dream, though, if you look at some of her figures, they're okay, but she ran better races a year or two ago. She was probably the best horse last year in this race, and she wound up getting beaten a half length by Moira, who sat a picture perfect trip by comparison. The last 2 races for Cinderella's Dream, though, just do not measure up to the sort of horse that we saw earlier on in the campaign. And I'm wondering if a mile and a quarter, a mile and 3/8 is just a little further than she wants. I think she may very well be at her best going a 1-mile route. That race on July 11th was very good, but I think she may very well need to repeat that kind of race in this spot. And that may be a tall order.
I will say, if at any point you said be her best, but if at any point we do think that and this doesn't happen often at Del Mar, because I feel like Del Mar's turf generally isn't very speed favoring. But if speed looks good, be your best, I think has got a little bit of a shot. I mean, this is a horse that loves to be on the front end. And Irad's won on this horse on the front end, which is not something you say very often. So he'll be aggressive with this horse, but this is absolutely, hey, need the lead type horse, needs that firm ground, and I think is gonna would need to basically, I think, have a little bit of a track bias to help her kind of win this one. But the last race, the 121 figure stacks up nicely here. It's just there's a couple here that have definitely run faster.
Yep, that's for sure. And if you like anybody out of that race, it's probably has to be Balesa, who comes in and may well just not have appreciated yielding going 2 and 3 back. But I'm in on Village Voice at anywhere close to that price. I think Village Voice is very live.
So we didn't talk about the classic
Nope.
much. So before we'll give a classic pick here, and we'll sign off. But and I know I've been kind of tongue in cheek with the whole race of the century stuff, but it's like, come on, TVG, like settle down, right? You don't have to, when you're drawing the Breeders' Cup, you don't have to call every race you don't have to call this Breeders' Cup Classic the race of the century.
In fairness, and I'm not just saying this because I used to work there. It's not just TVG or FanDuel TV. It was a lot of people on horse racing Twitter that took to calling it the best classic ever. Y'all need to read a book. 1998 was better. 2001 was better. 1988 and 1989 were both probably better. That puts 2025 fifth, and there's no shame in that.
So, who hosted the draw? Was it Brittany Urton?
Brittany Urton was the one that
Yeah.
hosted the draw. Nick Luck did a couple of other races as well.
So it was Brittany Urton who specifically said race of the century. And like I said, she's probably reading a script, so it's not her saying that. But when I heard that, I was like, wait, I did not hear that right. But anyways, so I have a question for you. Andrew, if we're going to call something, right, the race of the century, would you rather have a race like this that I thought was a competitive race with some very, very good horses? Um, I'm not going to say all timers, although, like I said, Sovereignty um, had just a phenomenal, 3-year-old campaign. Didn't win the Triple Crown, didn't try for the Triple Crown, right? So I don't know how much we want to take away from the horse because of that, but obviously we have precedents, right, but of other horses that have done that. Um, would you rather see something like this, like that, and would that be more of a race of the century, or race of your life, race of whatever, or would something more like Secretariat's Derby or Flightline's Breeders' Cup Classic, where you just see something that you're probably not going to see in your lifetime again?
B, and it's not close because it transcends your horse racing fandom and it transcends into pop culture. You can talk to people who are not horse racing fans. They know who Secretariat was because of the Belmont, where he moved like a tremendous machine. Give me that. That has so much more significance than a race like this, which is very good. Don't get me wrong. I am not trying to bash this year's Breeders' Cup Classic, but give me something that transcends the bubble that we're in to where we wind up getting mainstream attention. Give me Secretariat winning the Belmont. Give me American Pharoah winning the Belmont. Give me stuff like that over something that, yes, is great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. But in 2 days, nobody's going to be talking about it.
And like I wasn't even thinking about Secretariat's Belmont with like just the gaudy number, right? I'm thinking when he broke the record for the Derby. Um, but it's like, I mean, like let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like Secret or not Secretary, Flightline was only a couple of years ago. And everybody saw what the horse did. Like, and you want to call this the race of the century before? Like, come on.
So here's the thing. I'm going to make an argument. And I understand that there's going to be people who are going to be like, oh my God, this is absolutely terrible. Burn the witch at the stake. Yep, pretty much. I was in attendance for what I think is the race of the century. It was the last Santa Anita handicap worth a damn. Back in 2014, the Santa Anita handicap attracted a field of 5 or 6 horses. 3 of them were Game On Dude, Will Take Charge, and Mucho Macho Man. Will Take Charge was the champion 3-year-old from the year before. Mucho Macho Man had won the Breeders' Cup Classic the year before. And Game On Dude ran them off their feet, going 10 furlongs in 158 and change. That was damn cool.
So not the big cap that Combatant won.
No, not that one. And I
Okay.
will say the next year, I believe, was when Shared Belief won the big cap. That was probably the last year the Santa Anita handicap was the Santa Anita handicap in all capital letters. But 2014 was a lot of fun.
2018 was pretty good. 2018 was that Accelerate?
That was an
that
all-time horrible group of older horses. That was the year Accelerate won the Breeders' Cup Classic, and a whole bunch of contrarians tried to say, oh, Accelerate should be Horse of the Year. Not over an undefeated Triple Crown winner, he wasn't.
Yeah, that was Accelerate. Man,
Yeah.
I actually remember that.
I'm impressed. I'm proud of you. That was year 1 of Josh's horse racing fandom, so you had an excuse. You're good. But looking at this year's Classic and moving forward, obviously Sovereignty is a huge scratch. Sovereignty was the most likely winner. Sovereignty was going to be a pretty heavy favorite. And personally, I don't love that. I don't love that he's scratching for a number of different reasons. First, I wanted to see something special. Secondly, because it significantly alters the price on the horse I was going to bet. And that's horse number 8, Mindframe, who was 10-1 on that morning line, but in the revised morning line has dropped all the way down to 6-1. Ed DeRosa hates Mindframe, hates him. Not as much as he hates Contrary Thinking, who he put as 6-7, 6-7-1 in his fair odds line. But I cannot hold the Jockey Club Gold Cup against Mindframe. That was a freak occurrence. If insurance companies looked at horse races, they would call that an act of God. Draw a line through it. You draw a line through that race and you go off to Stephen Foster. Isn't he the horse to beat? He beat Sierra Leone that day, and he beat Sierra Leone comfortably. The race before that, he wins the Churchill Downs over a very good group that included Banishing, Nisos, Bookham Dano, Mulligan, some other very nice horses. I like Mindframe a fair bit in here. I was salivating, hoping I was going to get 10-1 on what hit me as the second most likely winner of that race. 6-1 seems fair, but it's nowhere near as exciting either.
Andrew, like, can you imagine when this race is won? Turn our golden faces into the sun.
Oh, here we go.
Praising our leaders. We're getting in tune. The music's played by the Madmen. What's the next part of that song?
I don't know. Something, 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 something. Forever Young.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm more so partial to the Rod Stewart Forever Young version, but I hear you.
I mean, I think this is the time for Forever Young with the Scratching of Sovereignty. I think this is a versatile horse, likes to be up front, can try and close. I mean, if this is the time he's going to win one of these classic races here in the U.S. This has got to be it. And yeah, I just think that, you know, he's going to be your second choice in this race. And honestly, if Fierceness was drawn anywhere else, I would be just sending in the money on Fierceness. But I believe I was talking to Caleb, and Caleb just very succinctly put it. Fierceness is an absolutely different animal on the rail.
Yep.
It is not the same horse. And, you know, maybe it's going to come back and bite me, right? I think he's 5-2 now on the revised morning line as your favorite. But yeah, I just think I think this is the time for Forever Young. So I like that horse, and I like Forever Young in this spot. I don't think I'm sticking my neck out. I think I'm agreeing with Ed DeRosa, I think, which also makes me feel a little bit ill. Maybe that's the Madmen that they're talking about in that song. But yeah, I like Forever Young in the spot. You know, I tried to get there with a couple other horses. You know, I thought, you know, I looked at Nevada Beach a little bit because this is at least an improving type here in Bafford's backyard. But I mean, I'm really stretching. I mean, Baeza, like, sure, I don't want any part of Baeza. I mean, Sierra Leone, I don't know. I just hate, like, I hated the fact that horse lost the last race. In the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I thought that there was no reason for Sierra Leone to lose that race. And I mean, like, journalism, it's just another horse I don't think I want to touch. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, by elimination I end up on Forever Young, but yeah, I'm excited to see how he runs here in the Classic.
What you got against Mindframe?
I've never liked Mindframe. I've never been impressed. But I mean, yeah, I guess that Stephen Foster was good. I will tell you that my friend Stephen is very on Mindframe, and you're clapping and you're like shaking like you're. But if you've met Steven, like you would be like, this is not a good thing that he likes my horse. So shout out to Steven, but yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really care for my frame in here either. But like I said, this is kind of early pass. I'm gonna take more look at it, closer look at the stuff tomorrow, with me having to travel out to Denver. So that should be a lot of fun. So I'll be doing a little bit more homework in preparation for our stream on Thursday. So check that out, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll get some more content out, some quick hitters things on Shorts and maybe on Twitter. So be on the lookout for some of that. And yeah, that's going to do it for us here on Drank and Champagne. Check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Andrew is at Andrew Champagne. Hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, download, whatever you got to do. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.
Indeed.